lovelies, and welcome to this week's video. As you can tell from the title, it's another pagan parenting video. However, today it's going to be a little different. It's going to be about mindfulness techniques. And it's not just going to be about meditation and yoga, though I am going to talk about that, and it's going to be for all ages. I'm going to talk about various types of other things that you can use for coping skills, as well as nature and the earth. So, and I'm also going to tell you how you can be able to concentrate. We need to be relaxed, we need to be grounded, we need to be able to focus in order to do any type of magic, any type of spells. And it also helps us with manifesting, and like I said, staying grounding. It helps us with our intuition, our psychic abilities, everything that we need as pagans. And also, if they decide not to stay pagan, having meditation skills throughout their lives for coping, for anxiety, stress, ADD, etc., is a good thing for them to have. So many of the items that I'm going to bring up include some form of guided meditation. The last thing I'm going to quick touch on with meditation before moving on to other things, since meditation is so ingrained into many of the other things that I'm going to bring up for teaching our children mindfulness at various ages, is back to that idea of, instead of punishing or timeouts, teaching them meditation or breathing techniques is essential. Like, what you can do is take like a kind of a time in, and you go into the room together and you teach them to do the breathing exercises, like breathe in, breathe out. And this can start when they're like young toddlers, like even before they're toddlers, like 1.5. I always say 2 is toddlers. Some people say earlier, but especially once they hit 2, this is a very good technique. And then older, you go into a little corner and you just teach breathing techniques, and then talk about emotions. So this is another aspect of mindfulness and techniques and stuff, is getting in tune with your emotions, being able to understand what they are, which again is also good for raising pagan children, especially for if they do get into magic. Once again, being able to tap into that emotional state to manifest what they want. But it's also good just in general for them to be able to cope with life and be able to be healthy individuals who are in touch with themselves, which as pagans is extremely important, to be in touch with ourselves, be in touch with the earth, all of that. So while you're doing this time in, they breathe in, breathe out, and then after this short like mini meditation, because the more they do it, the more you're able to kind of go into a meditative state instead of just the breathing relaxation techniques. And then afterwards, you can sit and talk about what emotion it was that they were feeling. And if they're still young, you still might have to use certain apps, which I'm going to show you. Some of them are actually like psychology based, and some are just fun things that go along with it, but I'm going to show you in a bit. But if they're still young, you can use either like emotion cards, coping skill cards. Some are called mindfulness cards, and then there's apps that show like emotions and then how you can handle it. But have them tell you what they're feeling. If they still are so young that they don't really know what each emotion is, show them pictures, and then explain what each picture means, and have them talk about it, and then you go from there. And that can teach the mindfulness, as well as including CBT and DBT, depending on how you're doing it, which of course is important for us raising children in this type of manner. So I'm kind of not going to do this in order, but I have various things I'm going to show you and talk about that are also going to be beneficial for raising pagan children, new age children, even just children in general, with mindfulness. So next I'm going to talk about yoga real quick. There's yoga DVDs for kids starting at like babies, like to teach them yoga, and this goes off of meditation as well, because you do get into, you do the relaxation breathing techniques that you would do for meditation. Yoga is obviously good for the same purposes, to keep us grounded, keep us mindful, since this is about mindfulness techniques, and it's overall good for their mental health as well as their psychic health. So I have some books too that I'm going to quick show for like the younger children, but like I said, there are DVDs starting for like babies, and there are ones for toddlers, for young children, for teenagers, all that kind of stuff. There's even classes that you can always apply to go to if you have the funds for it. It's really good. So if, for example, you have a teenager and they don't want to meditate, yoga might be a good alternative for them, since they're still doing that relaxation techniques and kind of getting in tune with themselves, but also keeping their body healthy, because as we know, healthy eating is also important. So some of these things you might remember from other pagan parenting videos, or just other videos of mine in general. Like I just touched on my clean eating video for empaths. That is a good one to check out. But back to yoga books. So this one is really good for a couple of reasons. So if your child is afraid of bugs, or specific bugs, not all, but a lot of children go through these irrational fear phases, and then, you know, you do have kids that actually have anxiety and real fears and phobias. And then there's also the aspect of getting in touch with Mother Earth, and including aspects of nature in various things that you do. So Yoga Bug is a really good one, and it shows them the poses as bugs. It's like, that's bee, this is caterpillar, etc. And that's really good for like toddlers and younger children, because then they think it's like fun. They think that they're like imitating these animals, and that's kind of what this one does as well, because it shows different animals as well, just animals in general, which again, going back to getting in touch with animals, getting in touch with the earth, having respect for animals, all that kind of stuff. Little Yoga, a toddler's first book of yoga. This one I see everywhere, but I highly recommend this one too. This one and the bug one my daughter loves. She likes to imitate them. She has a bad attention span and is very hyperactive, more so than the average toddler, and very eccentric personality, very over-the-top emotional state versus other toddlers her age, and she still is able to follow with these. So like now it's the butterfly, and there's the lion and things like that, so that's really good. And then there's good morning yoga and good night yoga. These, they can start for toddlers and go into children, elementary and early middle school. And there's also DVDs that you can order that have the same title that show all the poses together as well. And yeah, so I think that is something that's really good. Then into mindfulness just in general. This book called I Can Handle It, I may have mentioned this in one of my book recs for pagan parenting. It's Mindful Mantras, I Can Handle It, it's called. And it talks about like, my friend is mad at me, I can handle it though. And then it gives different examples of behaviors or actions that they can do, and then says I can handle it. And then at the end, it says no matter what, and I feel, and it shows all the more negative emotions, no matter what, I can handle it. I can handle anything. And then you put your name, and you can put a picture or draw yourself and say, I can handle anything. So that's really good too. I'm starting with the young kids first, and I'll get into the older. Another one, there's the aspect of like great gratitude and within all strains of paganism, New Age, all that. To use gratitude to raise your vibration, and just to do in general for the earth, and on the new moon, certain rituals, etc. There's this book and I'm using books that are not specifically made for pagans like I have before in these videos. And it's called Give Thanks for Each Day. And it just says, give thanks to the light in our home after dark. Give thanks for the snowflakes that fall from above. The sweet, simple pleasures when we're holding hands. Give thanks for each night. Give thanks for each day. Things like that. I think that's really good. As you can see, my daughter put a bunch of Bubble Guppy stickers on the back, so that's fun. But it also is, again, getting them to respect Earth and animals and everything that the Mother Goddess has given us at the same time. So you can kind of use that as a foundation as well. I like the things that help them with their mental and psychic states and overall health that also include nature aspects. That's really important to me. Then there was this Elmo book. I'm not that big into like the mainstream things, but you know, children find their way around it. So, but there's an Elmo book called Kindness Makes the World Go Round, and it talks about World Kindness Day and talks about why it's good to be kind and grateful for people. So kind of and everything, including different aspects of nature and the earth. So that kind of goes off of the Give Thanks for Each Day book. So this is another good one if your children are already into Elmo, to kind of bring them into that gratitude aspect and positive state of mind. Because that also helps with coping and mindfulness and all of that in the long run. As many of you know, I'm also a master's in counseling besides my holistic healing and apothecary business. So I'm trying to also include just not the aspect of mindfulness itself, but how it's used in general. So, and then there's this book called I Am Peace, a book of mindfulness. This is for various ages as well. This one I do read to my toddler, but it can be used for elementary and early middle school children, even older. I mean, it can be used, trust me, if you look at it. And it talks about things that they're afraid of happening. It's a lot about fear that they have, and then it kind of teaches them basically not just mindfulness, but affirmations and how to release and let things out into the universe. It also includes kindness and gratitude and positivity and the environment and planting seeds and that whole aspect of we start something and then it starts to grow, and like what we put out there comes back, which is really good too. And then there's like this line, for example, now the water is still, I have found my anchor and everything is all right. I don't need to worry about before or after. I am in this moment. I am peace. So this book is obviously about mindfulness and is about being in this moment, being in gratitude for especially like the earth and just life in general, and peace. At the end, there is also a guided meditation that can be read out loud. At the end of it says, you are wonderful, you are special, you are peace, you have just practiced mindful meditation. So yeah, it has a guided mindful meditation at the end. I highly, highly recommend this book. I'm not like a hippie. My mom is, but I'm not. But I still find this to be really good for them when talking about mindfulness. So this is a good one. And then there is, for the older ones, we get into shadow work. Now, I've talked about this. I'm getting the books out of the way, then I'm gonna go into other things that they can do. I talked about this in my beginner's shadow work video, which I do plan on still making. Hold on a second. Another shadow work video in the future, but I did bring this one up in that beginner's video. I think it's great for later middle school and teenagers as well, because it goes through various things. It'll have like a guided meditation, and you can find each of them on YouTube or on their, they have a link in that they tell you to go to on here, but you can, they are all on YouTube, and then they have prompts of what you got from it. So for example, one is called, let's see what I can find here, Seeds in the Garden, and you can, the meditation, if I recall correctly, brings you back into the garden, and you meet up with a younger version of yourself, like a little child, and then you plant, I think it's like 3 or how many ever different words or things that you may have lost along the way and need to re-empower yourself with, because again, it's shadow work, so it's about like your shadow self and all of that. And then the prompts are, what did you learn? What do you need to nurture to help it grow? What would help you connect your child more often? So this is very highly recommended for the older children as well as y'all. So moving on. Before I get into that, I'm going to just get into like the toy type stuff. So fidget spinners, we see these around everywhere, especially on YouTube. They were like a huge thing last year. This is a Wonder Woman one. But these are really good for mindfulness, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm actually right now preparing for my child counseling class a presentation where I'm going to be talking about a lot of this stuff for what would I have the children use in my counseling sessions. And for children with there's studies that show that children with like anxiety, stress, ADHD, anger issues, other disturbances, just problems of focus, etc., that having something to fidget with is great to keep them in the moment and being able to have a clear mind and be able to talk to you. So for example, if your child was misbehaving and you do want to talk to them, but you know they're not going to sit still, you know they're going to act out, you know that they're going to be a certain way, give them a fidget spinner. Also, it just really helps to kind of release a panic attack. So if you have a child with high anxiety and you want to get them into a space where they can be mindful and maybe get into a more intensive mindfulness practice like meditation or yoga, this might be a good first step. Hi, Freya. Another good thing for older children is having them do journaling every night, whether it's free write, different journal prompts, write poetry. Just writing in general really helps them get into a good mind space. It releases negative thoughts, negative energies, and any anxieties, all that kind of stuff, and helps them be able to get into a good mind space. Freya wants to play with the toys that I'm about to show. I think we all get the idea of why journaling is good, so I'm not going to go into a whole deal as if I'm writing a big counseling paper right now. So, okay. Next, we have for the younger children, toddlers as well as older children, slime. You can make slime and Play-Doh and things like that, or you can buy it, but that releases stress. It, like all of the other stuff, it helps with coping, helps with all that kind of stuff. All of the toys aspects do also help with motor skills as well, besides just the mindfulness aspect, mental health, psychic. They all do the same thing. Let's just get down to that, okay? But that's a really good thing to have. And you can see her hand wanting it. Then there is foam, which I have right here, which I think is even better because you can squish it and it's almost like a stress ball, but not. But you can also still build with it and help you stay in the moment. So if you do have a child that is very hyperactive or anxious or all the things that I've talked about, and has problem with the more what I call intensive mindfulness techniques, such as relaxation methods like meditation or yoga. These are good things to help them start off with, so just to kind of keep them in that moment and keep them occupied. As you can see, she really wants it right now. So to conclude with the slime and the foam and Play-Doh and things of that nature, you can build, they can stretch, they can relax themselves, calm themselves down when they're in an emotional state, especially the younger ones. Keeps them creative, grounded, and helps with their, yeah, well, grounded is in their emotions, right? Alright, so going off of that too, so I did mention how I liked the foam because it's kind of like a Play-Doh or slime mixed with a stress ball almost. And there's now, I only have the fashions on me at the moment, but I have the superhero girl ones, and my daughter right now has all of them except for this one, it's Bumblebee. But you squish it and it's like a stress ball, right? It has like a little water in its head, and that's really good, especially for the children when their emotions are high or they have anger problems or behavioral problems. Helps to get them in a grounded state. And so it kind of correlates with those. Before I move forward, one thing I did forget was putty. Along with all of those, putty is also really good for the same purposes: creativity, attention span, grounding, emotional state, etc. So yeah, that's another good option as well. And putty is actually the cheapest from what I've seen of the options at most stores. So if you are on a budget, you can do that if you don't plan on making your own. And then for my other stuff, for the final, I know I started off with the books, and I usually do books at the end, but now we're gonna go on to coloring books. So mindfulness, obviously, nowadays a lot of people have turned to coloring books that are adults, and they have like the mandalas, or they'll have crystals. I have a witchcraft one that has like pentacles and altars and stuff that you can color. So for the kids, you can just have like the regular like Paw Patrol ones and all that kind of stuff, or whatever they're into. But having them color or draw their feelings, so they can color to relax and get grounded, and all the things that we've already talked about. So now I'm just going to say the reasons why, or not the reasons why, I'm just going to say what other options you can use. So you can do coloring books. They can also draw, depending on their age, their emotions or how they're feeling, various things that are going on in their lives. They can draw a character that they like, and then you can talk to them and ask them why they chose to draw that, or what this represents to them, to kind of get into that openness. You want your child to be open with their emotions and their feelings. And also, it can kind of give you the idea if your child has some form of visions or ties to the fairy realm, because a lot of children are very open to that world, especially when they're young. So that's just another idea. For the older ones, I would use the adult ones for like older middle school and high school aged children. So I have an Avengers one here. Again, that's just for the mindfulness aspect of it. As we know, the purposes of adult coloring books for mindfulness. These two, though, have actual purposes. So the Color Me Stress Free has different chapters and is designed, each image, they're like mandalas, but not like this kind of stuff. Just abstract images, but they're just specifically designed for each theme of the chapter. So for example, we have disorganization, relationships, finances, work, health, time, travel, and commuting. Of course, not all of these are going to apply for every age group, but some it will. Like disorganization, relationships once they become like middle school and teenagers, Finances, work. Some teenagers do work, and some do have finances. And sometimes if their family is in a very financially stressful life, that will have an effect on the younger children. It's not all, but some. And then, of course, health is going to be important. And in each one chapter as well, it explains certain aspects of like why they developed the things that they did. So this is a really good one. It says Zen and the Art of Coloring. I don't know if you can see that. So there's that. Then the Enchanted Journey, a special coloring journal. So what I like about this one is that each image comes along with a question, a prompt, and then some journal space. So it's kind of bringing together the color book mindfulness technique as well as the journaling technique, which I really, really like. And it helps to get them in touch with themselves and to really think about things. So an example would be, what took great courage for you to do? And it has a picture of a lion that they can color. Describe a side of you that few people know or understand. And it has this really beautiful, like, fairy elf type woman, which I really love. I think it's a beautiful image. So that's another great one. Then finally, I have the apps for the iPad, which I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but my iPad is highly cracked from a toddler throwing it when she was younger. So there's three. I'm just going to list off a few of things. I was planning on showing you a little bit of the apps, but I kind of rambled re-explaining the same things because, as we know, these all kind of do the same thing. They're just different things. So 3M Mindfulness is highly recommended within the counseling world and the holistic world. And that one helps with basic breathing techniques and also has various meditations, has different plans like 7 days of mindfulness, 7 days of stress, things like that. So that's good for, I would say, like middle school and older, and as well as for you. Then there is a Sesame Street one. I forget the actual title of it, but because it just says breathe on the app, but I know it's longer than that. But that's on a lot of child counseling recommendations. It's also on a couple holistic mindfulness app recommendation things that I've looked at, lists I've looked at. So, and that one's actually been pretty good. My daughter's been using it, and it's been very, very helpful. What you do is you have to touch this monster character belly, and it helps him do the big breaths in, and you have to do it like 3 times. He has to end up doing the big breaths. Then you have to pop bubbles for him to think about what he should do next and how he should deal with the situation. And so it kind of does that whole, it's relaxing, thinking about it, and then acting, basically. And then Headspace is a good one too, which has various different aspects to it. There's like a 1-minute breathing activity, 2 minutes for unwinding, 3 minutes for restoring. You can also subscribe, unlock, add different packs and different things, and to kind of go along with that. But the basic, like, if you just want like a 1-minute breathing thing for your child, so like if instead of time out you do a time in, that might be good to have working along with you. Then there's this one for younger children, again, like toddlers, called My Emotions, which has them press which one they're feeling, and then it goes along with that and helps them to find out what they should do. And it has like a matching game so that they can learn their different emotions and be able to express them to you better and understand their own emotions. And that's the main aspect of it, is to match various emotions together. So that's good for like the toddlers and like preschoolers, kindergartners. Triangle of Life is another. These are all ones that were recommended on various sites, both for the counseling, like the psychology world as well as the holistic world. Triangle of Life is similar to the Sesame Street one, except for like older elementary school kids, and it's more of a game where they have to like jump over things to get to do each thing. It's very similar with the. This is what happened. This is the situation. These are the options I can take, and this is the action I'm going to do. And this is the result, and this is why these type of things happen. So it helps them. Freya, you can look at the books. They're your books. So that's an egg. So the Triangle of Life again. They think things through, and then you can understand why people may have done what they've done. Because like I said, it creates different situations so you can understand all various aspects, and yeah, it's just overall very good. And then there's an app called Breathe for Kids. Stop, Breathe, and Think Kids. It's what it's fully called, and it's both a game and a mindfulness technique, so they can go on a mission, and it helps them understand with coping and all of that great stuff. Then there's Kids Coping, another Kids Coping Skills one. That it has mindfulness techniques and aspects, but it also has other things as well. I recommend it. And that's for, I'd say, most kids. And then there's affirmation and confidence apps that I think you should look into that can help with middle school and high school children to build that self-esteem. And the affirmation apps are really good because it helps them learn how to use affirmations and then later create their own chants and affirmations and stuff for manifestation and spell work. And that's all I have today. I love you all. If you want me to give you the name of a specific app or a book or a coloring book, please write down in the comments or message me through my email, which is in the description below, because there's just way too many things that I talked about today to be able to write them all down. I'm sorry. I'll see you next time. I love you all. I hope you all had a blessed Litha summer solstice and have a great full moon. Oh wait, I forgot one other thing. Another good mindfulness technique that I totally forgot because I was doing so many. Yes, we're gonna be going to the garden soon. Alright, love you. Blessed be.